Thank you so much for joining this demo. We really want this, obviously through this, to bring to life for you Xamun, which we truly believe is our game-changing agentic AI software generation platform. Obviously, as a team, we are very excited to show you how this groundbreaking technology is truly transforming software development, not just in fintech, which we're obviously focused on today, but across industries, enabling you to build applications in days, not months. Throughout my career, I've been lucky enough to be strategically involved in some truly transformative projects in investment management, regulatory compliance, insurance, capital management, and many more. In those projects, I've really experienced firsthand how rapidly this industry has evolved. You can tell from the grey here, I'm talking about from the first PC, the internet, the smartphones, the cloud computing, etc. And while innovation has truly reshaped many areas, the fundamental challenge, as we will all appreciate on this call, of building high quality applications and solving complex tech problems to a strict budget and a rapid timescale still exists today. That's why I and the Xamun team are so enthusiastic about what we can show you in today's demo.
Now, as Neil has mentioned, our goal is to show you the leaps and bounds technology has taken to solve typical issues with developing custom software. From our experience, there are two main types of issues that we will be tackling today. The first are the build issues that we're all pretty much very familiar and frustrated with. So there's, as you can see on the slide, there's the time, the cost, as well as the reworks and failure rate all associated with building software. The second one, though, are the design issues. These are often overlooked. This factor, which is represented by the gaps in requirements gathering and the fact that verification from end users only happen after the software is built, during the UAT, or even after the software has been turned over, end up creating a slew of challenges that can cause friction between different stakeholders, whether that be within the company or between the developer as well as the end user client. And this is where Xamun comes in. So we exist to make software incredibly fast and easy. As Neil mentioned, we're launching or we're able to do scoping and design within minutes and delivering a fully working software within weeks. So whether you're a CIO leading a digital transformation of a large enterprise, or a startup founder launching a new app, or a dev shop executive looking to build a lean, mean app building machine, or even a small business owner wanting to go digital to compete better, our AI augmented software development platform is here to help you. And it's mainly comprised of two main studios, the Design Studio and the Build Studio, both aptly named and comprised with the right agents, meant to resolve the two main types of issues I spoke of earlier. But you may ask, what is an AI agent? What is an AI agent and what do AI agents do? So a bit of a background. An AI agent is an AI-powered solution that can work autonomously, different from your more common AIs like chatbots or RPAs that can only answer FAQs or do pre-programmed tasks, respectively. AI agents are able to utilize tools, learn from previous tasks, and interpret directions and work on various or more complicated tasks, thanks to the ability of LLMs. And now, think what would happen if you were to orchestrate different agents with different specializations and use that to build software. That's exactly what you get from using the Xamun platform. It's as if you're working with a team of experts, but this time in the form of AI agents. The platform pretty much covers the entire software development lifecycle, with AI-powered functionalities peppered across the lifecycle to drive up efficiency in building software. And to make coordination between the different agents easier, I'd like to introduce you to Zami, our AI agent orchestrator. Zami will be your main point of contact between you and the different agents within the Xamun Design and Build Studio. The agents are specialized in software development tasks, such as scoping, UI design, front-end and back-end development, and so much more, which I'll show you later how these agents work during the demo. Going back to Xamun as a whole, though, because of these agents and the orchestration I spoke about earlier with Xamun, Design Studio users, as Neil mentioned, are able to develop your scope requirements and prototype in as little as 20 minutes, while Build Studio users can have your solution in less than an hour, though further validation and testing from the human counterparts such as developers, testers, BAs may increase the resulting time. Hence, we say that in tandem, Xamun should be able to, with Xamun, you should be able to have a fully working software in 2 weeks. And just to prove that, over the past few months, Xamun users from all across the world have built a variety of solutions from internal and external solutions, catering to various industries and business functions. As you can see, these are not just your basic apps that can be built by no-code platforms, but instead complex enterprise-grade software that would usually require a full development team. For this demo, we'll be going through the 4 phases that you'll have to go through when using Xamun. So there's the scoping, design, build, and go live. Starting with the scoping. So typical with any software project, the first or initial activity would be to create or arrive at a feature list. So whether you have experience in software development or not, this task can be tedious and usually requires a bit of research to identify the modules, features required that will go to your solution. But with Xamun, this step can't be any easier. And let me show you how. So give me a moment as I switch screens. So the first thing you'll start off with here in Xamun is to chat with Xami, our solution advisor, as well as our agent orchestrator. Like I mentioned earlier, for this, I'll be telling Xami that I need a personal budgeting app that can help me track my expenses against a budget. As I click the send function, this input will trigger an AI-powered analysis that will draw on thousands of successful software implementations. And at the same time, as I mentioned earlier, Xami will orchestrate multiple AI agents to do the following. 1, break down your business requirements into functional needs. 2, match these against proven software architectures. 3, identify the optimal modules and pages needed based on the prompt. 4, determine how they should be connected and flow together. So as you can see here, Xami is currently recommending 4 different modules. 1 to track expenses, another one to set and monitor budgets, another one to create reports, one to receive budget alerts, and the last one is to link bank accounts. In case you feel that something's missing from the app that you need, you can just chat with Xami further and let's say tell Xami that I also want it's actually pretty complete. That just goes to show how thorough Xami is. But let's look at the different modules first before I ask Xami for any other additional modules or pages. So as you can see here, under each module, in this case, the track expenses, you'll see the recommended list of users, the build estimate, which will correspond to the time needed, as well as the cost needed to build the said module, as well as a list of pages and features under each module. So in this case, you'll see the expense entry as well as a description of the said page. Now over here at the top right of each module, you'll see two icons with a check mark. One is if you want to build it on mobile, and the other one is if you want to build it on web. So you can click one or both of the modules in case you want it. In this case, the modules actually feel pretty complete, and I think I'd like all of it except for the linking with the bank accounts, as I'm also on a budget. Once I do click, once I'm fine with the module selected, you'll see here at the bottom an estimated duration of weeks, as well as a ballpark figure on your cost. Once I click proceed, this will be the end of the scoping phase. So let's click that. And so for the next, after the scoping phase, once you've scoped out your initial project, the next step is the design phase. In the design phase is where the gaps I spoke of earlier will be addressed. So we'll get into an in-depth look at the different parts of a software design phase that will lead to a successful project. So this can be the design, the user stories, acceptance cases, and so on. So let me switch back to Xamun and show you the different parts. So it all starts here. Oops, sorry. So it all starts here in the solution setup. As you can see here, for the design studio or design phase, there's 6 different steps that need to be taken. The first one would be the solution setup. So during the solution setup, this is when where you'll set up, as the tab says so, your solution. From the different parts such as the details, so the name of the project, themes, app configuration, such as identifying the different technologies or tech stack that will be used to build the solution, and finally, some additional requirements. Once you're okay with that, you can click proceed and move on to the next step, which is a review of the different modules and pages that was initially selected during scoping. And upon clicking generate pages, you'll see here that the Xamun platform will do the following. One, generate page designs. Second, map out business processes. Third, generate user stories. And finally, generate the test cases. That's what this page detail step is for, where you get to review the different designs. At the same time, in case something is not up to par or not to your liking, you can easily chat with Zami to do modifications on the said page. Can you make the currency, let's say, PHP instead of USD? Let's try that. And if you look here, what's great about Xamun as well is that we're pricing each everything. Our pricing is very transparent, where you see the price of each page, and it is or can be adjusted based on the complexity. You can also phase out the development of your software depending on your priorities. So as you can see here, it became peso. In addition to that, right now what you see is the page design. But as I mentioned earlier, what was generated is more than just that. There's also the user stories, as you can see here, that describes how users will interact with each page, the different features, as well as what you can do here is add more details to the page, from logics, calculations, business rules, as well as points of integration. So there's some pre-defined integrations as well. But just in case you can't find it from our growing library list of integrations, you can also add a new one. So once you're okay with this step, like I said, to get the best results from Xamun, it would be best to go through each and every page. Once that's done, the next step would be to go through the page mapping. This page mapping is basically an understanding of how everything is connected to each other from one page to the other. You can see here by clicking that edit button, it shows what happens when you it will show you how the page will move from from one page to the other. And this will be used as an input later on to the business processes, or how I'd like to refer to it as the prototype. Now, in this prototype, when you do click the preview button, you'll see here, just like in any actual wireframe or prototype, an instruction of click on add transaction after filling up the details. Let's say I want to add a transaction for my budgeting app. Let's say in this case 2000 um, for let's say Valentine's Day. Just to project this transaction, and upon clicking transaction, it will move to the transaction list page, which we'll show you later on in the final app demo. Once you're done reviewing each and every process, the next step and the last step in the design studio is to review the commercial terms. Now over here, the left side, you'll be able to see the price per process or the price per module, some optional add-ons at the middle, and a summary of everything to the right, where you'll be able to see the grand total cost, estimated duration, and if you so wish, you can click request contract to receive a formal contract from us. Let's move on to the Build Studio. Now, before I do, I just want to walk through the different steps that are done in the Build Studio. So as you can see here, let's start with the flow. We start with, typically what would happen is that a developer would prompt the agent to develop the front end code. And followed by the database, the back end, all in one go. And then it will be a per process already for integration, automated testing, and UAT. Also take note though that in between each step, there will be some form of validation by agents. And this validation is really important for us because that's how we ensure that by the end of everything, the amount of bugs, errors, issues will be minimized.
Yeah, maybe let me add a little bit there because, some of you who are following the general information about AI and its ability to code, you must be well aware that the range of accuracy of the code is roughly around anywhere from 60% or so. But with this effort that we have where one agent creates and another one checks and then there is iteration, we have been able to effectively bring the errors down substantially so that roughly around 90%, and in some cases for front end and all, there is literally no error left for the human to fix. So that's the key thing there. Basically, there is iteration going on, and then we are also training our own LLM to basically down the line know what is the expectation and avoid making mistakes. Back to you, Jello.
Like I said, you'll be able to see the estimated hours, the hours spent, start and end date, how many sprints have been done, who are the team members that are participating in the said project. In the dashboard, you'll see the progress. Obviously, if you look here, 8 hours, just 5% done. Time management, the planned time versus the actual. Number of issues that have been identified across the board by the AI, by developers or the client, whichever hasn't been resolved yet. But as I was saying, more importantly would be this dev build pipeline, where you can see the different business processes whether it's in progress, whether it's done. And these business processes are coming from the design studio. So let me just quickly wait for that to load. Wait, I loaded it here already. So you can see the different business processes here already. Just like from the design studio, you can preview it. You can see the acceptance criteria, logic and calculation that may have been noted down, as well as the test cases that have been generated or generated by the AI or added by the users. Now, like I mentioned earlier in the design studio, these will all be inputs that will be taken in by both AI and developers to make sure that the output fits your requirement. So that's the business process. And like I said earlier, after the one-time generation, they will be working on each process one at a time for UAT afterwards. In the dev pipeline, this is where you'll see or the developers will interact with the different AI agents, from generating front-end code, um, validating that front-end code to make sure that there are no issues. So as you can see here from the log, this was the generated, this is a log of the front-end codes that have been generated. As it was a simple, straightforward app in this case, there were no issues that were found by the AI. Next would be the generation of the database. You can see the logs here as well. And from there, it's just a relay race between generating the code, database, APIs, and so on, and validating, making sure that at every step of the way there are no issues. So that even before we move to the next step, these issues are addressed and there will be less backtracking and fixing later on.
So maybe it's worth mentioning here, the roles of the developers here is primarily to run the agent and verify and validate the output at different stage. And if it is unable to resolve issue, then to do it. So it's more of exception handling kind of a role from the human, as well as verifying the output rather than doing the main work themselves. And as the system gets smarter, that effort also goes less, and it's a faster. So even all our team members had to adjust the whole mindset from being the doer to now being the checker and ensuring quality and all. And then that's the mindset shift working with agents, really.
Agreed. So just like in the design studio where instead of now thinking, okay, I need this test case, it's more of just reviewing what has been generated. So even with the database architecture, it's more of just making sure that what was generated is optimized for what the client needs from the database, making also with the APIs, making sure that it's working, the business rules are up to par with what the client wants. So that's what the developers and testers and QAs will be doing mainly in the Build Studio. Next would be the issues board. So I think I loaded it as well, or it expired. Anyway, let's wait for it here. So next is the issues board. Now, in case there are any issues that have been identified across the three groups, whether that be the validator AI, which in this case, it didn't identify any issues, or the QA, or even the client, it will come up here in the issues board. So for example, here, it noticed that after adding a new transaction, the balance calculation is incorrect. So at this point, it will be up to the developer to fix this issue. And it will just be a cycle of generating the code, checking if it's correct, passing it on to the client for validation until the app is done. And from the client side, they will also have some form or some interaction with the Build Studio in the form of a project management board, where they will be able to see the progress of their set of the app that they're having made by the Xamun team and its build partner, checking out the different acceptance criteria that have been pushed to the sandbox for testing, reporting any bugs if they identify any, and so on. Now, that's the main thing
Maybe it's
with
worth mentioning, Jello, like, typically. So we work with average project parameter just for our own benchmarking also. And our average project parameter is roughly around 30 screen, whether web or mobile. And what we have observed with our current capabilities of the system platform and the team, we can get it done roughly around 2 weeks time, depending on, we can get the time of the customer to put in the proper input and confirm, because what takes time actually less of the AI and more of the human side of things, because people want to get more feedback, confirm. So that's the part that takes time, and fair enough. I mean, we are talking about bringing down something that was 9 to 12 months down to, like, 3 weeks or 4 weeks even, which is pretty fast, and it can make a huge difference in terms of whether it's a startup or a business to bring something to the market. And what we are building is actually cloud native scalable solution that can easily handle hundreds of users using it simultaneously. So that gives that confidence quite quickly. Back to you, Jello.
last step is to go live. So once everything has been tested, the last step is to do a full test of the developed software. So as we're short on time, let me just show you what has been made. Now, what's interesting here, but mainly because this is just 14 pages, if I remember correctly, and Cyril can correct me if I'm wrong, it just took the team about 14 hours to build this simple budgeting app. So let's test it out by, let's say, adding a transaction as mentioned earlier, transaction type, like I did earlier, let's say it was for a Valentine's date. Um,
Yeah, and this could probably have been maybe even a scanner using some kind of OCR to extract it from a snap of a invoice or a receipt itself, isn't it?
Yes, so that could have actually been a phase two since um, it's not that much additional work, I guess. And so here you can see that there's the Valentine's date. Oh, I accidentally inputted one earlier already, so I can even edit or just delete it as a whole. Or maybe come Feb 14, I noticed that the amount or the date was more expensive, so you can update that. And that's um that's the finished app.